She was just a poor black girl, quiet and overlooked, signed up to play piano at the school talent show as a cruel joke. The kids who mocked her never expected what would happen next. But when a single dad with his own shattered past saw the fear in her eyes and heard her fingers touch those keys for the first time, everything changed. What followed wasn't just a performance. It was a reckoning, a redemption, and a reminder that sometimes the voices the world tries to silence become the ones it can never forget. Because the most powerful moments don't always come from those who've had it easy. They come from those who've had to fight for every single note. If stories of quiet courage, unexpected kindness, and the music that heals broken hearts speak to you, don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey where hope still lives and second chances still exist. Now, let's begin. Single dad helped poor black girl asked to play piano as a joke. Her performance stunned everyone. The afternoon bell at Riverside Middle School rang sharp and final, releasing a flood of students into the hallways like water breaking through a dam. Laughter echoed off the lockers. Backpacks slammed. Sneakers squeaked on polished linoleum. It was the kind of chaotic energy that made it easy to disappear if you wanted to, and 13-year-old Naomi Brooks had become an expert at exactly that. She kept her head down, her worn sneakers moving quickly across the tile. Her backpack faded and patched with duct tape at the seams hung heavy on her narrow shoulders. Her jacket was 2 sizes too big, handed down from a cousin she'd never met. The other kids didn't notice her much anymore. She'd learned how to be invisible. It was safer that way, but today, invisibility failed her. Naomi had stayed late in the music room, not because she had permission, but because the school's old upright piano sat in the corner gathering dust, and no one ever checked who used it after hours. She'd taught herself to play by watching videos on her grandmother's cracked phone screen, pausing and rewinding until her fingers learned the shapes. She didn't know how to read music. She didn't have a teacher. She just had time, silence, and an ache in her chest that only seemed to quiet when her hands found the keys. She was halfway through a piece she'd been working on, something soft and slow that made her think of rain on windows when the door opened behind her. She froze. Her hands hovered above the keys. 3 voices, all familiar, all wrong. Well, a girl's voice sweet as poisoned honey. Look who thinks she's Beethoven. Naomi turned slowly. Standing in the doorway were 3 8th graders. Brittany Cole, Tyler, Grant, and Madison Wells. They were the kind of kids who wore name-brand everything, whose parents drove them to school in shining SUVs, whose laughter always seemed to be at someone else's expense. Brittany held up her phone recording. Naomi's stomach dropped. "Play something for us," Brittany said, stepping closer. "Come on, don't be shy." "I was just leaving," Naomi whispered, standing up quickly. Tyler blocked the door, arms crossed. He was tall for his age and knew it. "Not yet. We want to hear the concert." Madison laughed, a sharp sound like breaking glass. "Maybe we should sign her up for the talent show. Wouldn't that be hilarious?" Naomi's throat tightened. The talent show was in 3 weeks. It was the biggest event of the semester. Everyone performed. Everyone watched. Everyone remembered. "Oh my God. Yes," Brittany said, eyes lighting up with cruel delight. "Let's do it. I'll put her name down right now." "Please don't," Naomi said, her voice barely audible. "Too late," Brittany said, already typing on her phone. She looked up with a grin. "Done. Naomi Brooks, slot 8. Break a leg superstar." They left laughing, their voices fading down the hall. Naomi stood alone in the music room, her hands shaking her chest tight. She wanted to cry, but the tears wouldn't come. They never did anymore. She grabbed her backpack and ran. Outside, the parking lot was nearly empty. Most parents had already picked up their kids. Naomi walked quickly toward the gate, head down, trying not to think about what had just happened. Trying not to imagine standing on that stage in front of everyone. Trying not to hear the laughter already echoing in her mind. She didn't see the truck until it rolled up beside her. "Hey." She flinched, stopping mid-step. The truck was old, a faded blue pickup with rust spots along the door. The man behind the wheel was in his early 40s, with a weathered face, dark stubble, and kind eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. "You okay?" he asked gently. Naomi nodded quickly, stepping back. "I'm fine." But she wasn't. And he could tell. "I saw those kids bothering you in there," he said, nodding toward the school. "Through the window, I was waiting for my friend's son." He pointed to the music room window. "You were playing piano." Naomi didn't respond. She didn't know what to say. "I'm Owen," he said. "Owen Hayes. I used to teach piano. A long time ago." She looked at him, then really looked. There was something about the way he said it, like the words carried weight, like they hurt to speak. What they did. Owen continued, that wasn't okay. "And if you need someone to talk to the principal, I will." Naomi shook her head quickly. "No. Please, it'll just make it worse." Owen studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "All right, but can I at least give you a ride home? It's getting cold." Naomi hesitated. Her grandmother had always told her not to get in cars with strangers. But something about this man felt different, felt safe. "Okay," she whispered. The ride was quiet. Owen didn't push her to talk. He just drove the radio playing softly some old song about rivers and roads. Naomi stared out the window watching the houses blur past, and for the first time that day, she felt like she could breathe. Owen Hayes hadn't planned on stopping at the school that day. He'd been picking up his buddy's son as a favor, something he did once a week since the kid's dad worked late shifts. But when he'd glanced up toward the music room window while waiting in the parking lot and seen that girl at the piano, something had stirred in him. Something he thought he'd buried 4 years ago. Her hands moved across the keys with a kind of raw honesty that reminded him of someone he'd lost. And then he'd seen the other kids walk in, seen the girl's posture change, stiffen, shrink, seen her stand up too fast, grab her bag, and run. He knew that look. He'd seen it before on another girl's face years ago, when the world felt too heavy and no one was listening. So he'd followed her outside, and now she sat in his passenger seat, small and silent, staring out the window like she was trying to disappear into the glass. "You live far from here?" Owen asked gently. Naomi shook her head. "Just a few blocks, near Maple Street." He nodded, turning at the light. The neighborhood grew older as they drove houses, smaller fences, leaning paint peeling. Owen knew this part of town. He'd grown up not far from here himself, back when things were different, back when he still believed the world was fair. They pulled up in front of a narrow house with a sagging porch and a chain-link fence. Naomi reached for the door handle, then paused. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For the ride." Owen nodded. Then before he could stop himself, he asked, "How long have you been playing?" She blinked, surprised. "A couple years. Taught myself mostly." "You're good." She looked down at her lap. "I don't know how to read music." Owen's chest tightened. "Neither did my daughter," he said. "At first. She learned by ear, too." Naomi looked up at him, eyes wide. "You have a daughter," I did, Owen said softly. "Her name was Ella. She passed away 4 years ago." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that happens when someone speaks a truth too big for words to carry alone. "I'm sorry," Naomi whispered. Owen nodded. "She played piano, was really good at it. Better than me, honestly." He smiled faintly. "She was about your age." Naomi didn't know what to say. She just sat there, hands folded in her lap, feeling like something fragile and important was hanging in the air between them. "If you ever want to learn properly," Owen said, "I have a piano at my house. A good one. It's just been sitting there for years. No one plays it anymore." Naomi looked at him, uncertain. "Why would you do that?" Owen thought about it. "Because talent like yours shouldn't be wasted. And because I think maybe you need someone to believe in you right now." Her throat tightened. She nodded, afraid if she spoke, she might cry. "Think about it," Owen said. "No pressure. But if you want to come by, I'll teach you. For free. Just so you know what you're capable of." Naomi nodded again, then climbed out of the truck. She stood on the sidewalk watching as Owen drove away, and for the first time in a long time, something like hope flickered in her chest. Inside the house, her grandmother was napping in the old recliner, the TV murmuring low. Naomi set her backpack down quietly and walked to the small desk in the corner where the family computer sat, ancient and slow. She opened a browser and typed one name into the search bar. Owen Hayes, piano teacher. The results were sparse. An old article from a local newspaper dated 6 years ago about a music school that had closed. A photo of a man and a woman standing in front of a studio with a little girl between them, all three smiling. The caption read, "Owen and Sarah Hayes with daughter Ella at the grand opening of Hayes Piano Studio." Naomi stared at the photo. The little girl in the picture had bright eyes and a gap-toothed grin, her hands resting on a miniature keyboard. She looked happy. She looked loved. Naomi closed the browser and sat back. She thought about the way Owen had spoken about his daughter, the way his voice had softened when he said her name, the way he'd offered to teach her, a stranger, for no reason other than kindness. She thought about the talent show, about Brittany and Madison and Tyler and their cruel laughter, about standing on that stage in front of everyone exposed and alone. And then she thought about Owen's words. Talent like yours shouldn't be wasted. She made a decision. The next afternoon after school, Naomi walked the 12 blocks to the address Owen had scribbled on a scrap of paper and handed to her before she'd gotten out of the truck. Her grandmother had asked where she was going, and Naomi had said simply piano lessons. Her grandmother had raised an eyebrow, but hadn't argued. She'd always known Naomi loved music. She just hadn't known where it would lead. Owen's house was at the end of a quiet street, an old craftsman-style home with faded blue siding and a wide front porch. The lawn was neat but plain, the flower beds empty except for a few stubborn weeds. There was a warmth to it, though something lived in and loved, even if it had been a long time since laughter filled the rooms. Naomi climbed the porch steps and knocked. Owen opened the door almost immediately, as if he'd been waiting. He smiled a little, surprised, a little relieved. "You came," he said. "Yeah," Naomi replied, clutching her backpack straps. "If the offer's still open." "It is. Come on in." The inside of the house smelled faintly of coffee and old wood. The furniture was simple but comfortable, worn in the way that happens when people actually use things instead of just decorating with them. Photos lined the walls, most of them older, faded. A woman with auburn hair and a warm smile. A little girl on a swing. A family at the beach. Naomi's eyes lingered on the photos, but she didn't ask. She didn't need to. "The piano's in here," Owen said, leading her through the living room into a sunroom that faced the backyard. And there it was. A black grand piano, its surface polished but dusty sheet music stacked neatly on top. It looked like something out of a movie, elegant and timeless waiting. Naomi stopped in the doorway, staring. "Go ahead," Owen said gently. "Sit down. Try it." She walked forward slowly, almost reverently, and lowered herself onto the bench. The keys felt cool under her fingertips. She pressed one note, then another. The sound was rich and deep, nothing like the tinny upright at school. "This was your daughter's," she said quietly. Owen nodded. "Yeah, she loved it." Naomi looked up at him. "Are you sure you want me to play it?" Owen's eyes softened. "I'm sure. It's been silent too long." And so Naomi played. She started with the piece she'd been working on at school, the one Brittany and the others had interrupted. Her fingers moved carefully at first, tentative, but as the music filled the room, something shifted. She forgot about the bullies. She forgot about the talent show. She forgot about everything except the sound. Owen stood by the doorway, listening. He hadn't heard music in this room in 4 years. Hadn't let himself. But now, hearing this girl, this stranger, with a gift she didn't even fully understand yet, he felt something crack open inside him. Something that had been locked tight and rusted shut. When Naomi finished, the silence that followed was full, not empty. "You don't need me," said his voice thick. "You're already incredible." Naomi shook her head. "I don't know what I'm doing. I just play what I hear." "That's the best kind of playing," Owen said. "But if you want to go further, if you want to really understand what you're capable of, I can teach you." She looked at him, eyes wide and hopeful. Really, really. And that was how it began. Over the next week, Naomi came to Owen's house every day after school. At first, her grandmother had been hesitant, asking questions, wanting to meet this man who'd offered to teach her granddaughter for free. Owen had driven to their house, knocked on the door, and introduced himself properly. He'd explained about the piano, about Ella, about how he'd closed his studio after the accident, but never stopped loving music. Naomi's grandmother, a woman named Dorothy Brooks, who carried herself with the quiet dignity of someone who'd survived too much to be easily fooled, had looked him in the eye for a long moment. Then she'd nodded. "You hurt her, and I'll hurt you," she'd said plainly. "Understood," Owen had replied. And that was that. Now sitting at the grand piano in Owen's sunroom, Naomi stared down at a sheet of paper covered in strange symbols, lines and dots and squiggles that meant nothing to her. "This is sheet music," Owen explained, sitting beside her on the bench. "Every note you play has a name and a place on this staff. See these lines? Each one represents a different pitch." Naomi frowned. "I've never needed this before." "I know," Owen said gently. "And that's incredible. You have a natural ear. But if you want to play more complex pieces, if you want to understand why certain notes sound good together, you need to learn the language." Naomi sighed, but nodded. "Okay, teach me." And so he did. They started with the basics. Middle C, treble clef, bass clef, whole notes, half notes, quarter notes. Owen was patient, never rushing, never condescending. He explained things the way a good teacher does not, by talking down, but by building up. Naomi absorbed it like a sponge. Within 2 days, she could read simple melodies. Within 4, she was sight-reading beginner pieces with only a few stumbles. Owen was astonished. He'd taught dozens of students over the years, but he'd never seen anyone learn this fast. "You're not normal," he said one afternoon, shaking his head in disbelief as Naomi played through a Mozart minuet she'd only seen once before. "Is that bad?" she asked, pausing mid-measure. Owen laughed, the sound rusty but real. "No, it's incredible." But it wasn't just the learning that mattered. It was the trust building between them. The way Naomi started to relax in his presence. The way she asked questions about Ella without fear of hurting him. The way Owen found himself smiling again, something he hadn't done much of in years. One evening, after a particularly long session, Naomi asked, "What happened to them? Your wife and daughter?" Owen had known the question was coming. He took a breath and answered honestly. "Car accident," he said quietly. 4 years ago. We were driving home from a recital. Ella had just performed a Chopin piece she'd been working on for months. She was so proud. Sarah was in the passenger seat, turned around talking to her, laughing. I was driving." He paused. Naomi waited. A truck ran a red light. Owen continued. "Hit us on Sarah's side. She died instantly. Ella held on for 3 days in the hospital, but her injuries were too severe. I walked away with a broken arm and a concussion." Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry." Owen nodded. "I blamed myself for a long time. Still do sometimes. I couldn't play piano after that. Couldn't even look at it. Every note reminded me of what I'd lost. So I closed the studio, sold most of the equipment, kept this piano because I couldn't bring myself to let it go. And I haven't taught anyone since." "Until now," Naomi said softly. "Until now." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Naomi said, "Thank you for trusting me with it. The piano and the story." Owen looked at her, this girl who'd been thrown into his life by chance, and realized something. She wasn't just learning from him. He was learning from her too. Learning that grief didn't have to be the end. Learning that music could still mean something. Learning that maybe, just maybe, there was still a reason to keep going. "You ready to pick a piece for the talent show?" he asked. Naomi's face fell. "I don't know if I can do it." "You can," Owen said firmly. "And I'll be there. Every step." She looked at him, searching his face for doubt and finding none. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's do it." That night, after Naomi had gone home, Owen sat alone in the sunroom, the grand piano silent in the dim light. He hadn't told anyone the full story of the accident in years. Not his friends, not his brother, not even the grief counselor he'd seen twice before quitting. But telling Naomi had cracked something open. And now, in the quiet, the memories came flooding back whether he wanted them or not. He remembered the day Ella was born. The way Sarah had held her tears streaming down her face, whispering, "She's perfect, Owen. Look at her." He remembered bringing her home, that tiny bundled life, terrified he'd break her just by breathing wrong. He remembered her first word, Dada, and the way his heart had nearly exploded with pride. He remembered her first steps, her first laugh, her first tantrum in the grocery store that had made him want to crawl into a hole. But most of all, he remembered the day she'd discovered the piano. She'd been 3 years old, toddling around the living room while he practiced for a student recital. She'd climbed up onto the bench beside him, placed her tiny hands on the keys, and pressed down hard, creating a discordant mess of sound. But she'd laughed, delighted, and looked up at him with those bright eyes and said, "Music, Daddy." From that moment on, she'd been hooked. By 5, she was taking lessons. By 7, she was performing in local competitions. By 10, she was being scouted by music conservatory's teachers, telling Owen and Sarah that their daughter was gifted, truly gifted, the kind of talent you see once in a generation. Sarah had been so proud. She'd driven Ella to every lesson, every rehearsal, every competition. She'd sat in the audience with her hands clasped, tears in her eyes, watching their daughter do something they'd only dreamed of. And then, in one moment, it was all gone. Owen closed his eyes, the memory of that night still vivid. The headlights, the screech of brakes, the shattering glass. The silence afterward, thick and wrong. He'd woken up in the hospital to a nurse's pitying face, and the words no parent should ever hear. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Hayes." The funeral had been unbearable. A closed casket for Sarah. A small white one for Ella. Owen had stood there, numb, unable to cry, unable to speak, unable to do anything but exist. Afterward, people had tried to help. Friends brought casseroles. His brother offered to let him stay at his place. The school sent a grief counselor, but none of it mattered. Nothing could bring them back. So Owen had done the only thing he could. He'd shut down, closed the studio, stopped teaching, stopped playing, stopped living really in any way that mattered. For 4 years he'd gone through the motions, worked odd jobs, handyman work, mostly fixing things for people, because it was easier than fixing himself. Came home to an empty house, ate frozen dinners, fell asleep on the couch with the TV on. He'd told himself he was fine, that this was just how life was now, that the pain would fade eventually. But it hadn't. It had just grown quieter, settling into his bones like arthritis, a dull ache he'd learned to live with. Until Naomi. He didn't know why this particular girl had gotten through to him. Maybe it was the way she played raw and honest and fearless. Maybe it was the look in her eyes, that mixture of hope and hurt that reminded him so much of Ella. Maybe it was just timing, the universe's way of saying, "You've mourned long enough." Whatever it was teaching her had awakened something in him, something he thought had died with his family. Purpose. Owen walked to the piano and opened the bench. Inside, buried under old sheet music and broken metronomes, was a leather-bound notebook. He pulled it out, brushed off the dust, and opened it. Inside were Ella's compositions. Pieces she'd written herself, melodies she'd hummed while doing homework, fragments of songs she'd never finished. The last entry was dated 2 weeks before the accident. It was titled simply Unfinished Melody. The first page was complete, the notes carefully written in Ella's looping handwriting. But the second page was blank, except for a single line at the top. "I don't know how this one ends yet, Daddy. Help me finish it someday." Owen stared at the words, his vision blurring. He'd read this 100 times over the years, always closing the notebook before the grief could swallow him whole. But tonight, with Naomi's question about the talent show still echoing in his mind, an idea took root. What if they finished it together? What if Naomi played Ella's unfinished melody, completed in a way only she could? It wouldn't bring Ella back. Nothing would. But maybe it would give her music a second life. Maybe it would prove that even unfinished things could still be beautiful. Owen closed the notebook, held it against his chest, and for the first time in 4 years, he cried. Not the silent, choking kind of tears he'd shed at the funeral, but the cleansing kind. The kind that hurt but healed. When Naomi arrived the next day, Owen showed her the notebook. "This was Ella's," he said. "She wrote her own music. And there's one piece she never finished. I think if you're willing, we could finish it together, and you could play it at the talent show." Naomi opened the notebook carefully, reverently, and read the first page. The melody was hauntingly beautiful, delicate, but strong with an aching quality that made her chest tighten. She looked up at Owen. "You really think I can do this?" "I know you can," he said. "And I think Ella would have wanted someone like you to finish what she started." Naomi's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's finish it." Word spread fast in middle school. By the end of the week, everyone knew that Naomi Brooks, the quiet girl who wore second-hand clothes and kept her head down, was signed up for the talent show. And not just signed up, but listed to perform solo. Piano. The reactions were mixed. Some students were curious. Others were skeptical. But most especially the ones who ran in Brittany Cole's circle thought it was hilarious. "Oh my God, I can't wait to see this," Madison said at lunch, loud enough for half the cafeteria to hear. "She's going to bomb so hard." Tyler leaned back in his chair, smirking. "I heard she taught herself on YouTube. This is going to be painful." Brittany, sitting at the head of the table like a queen holding court, said nothing. But her smile was sharp, and her eyes gleamed with anticipation. At another table far from the popular kids, Naomi sat alone picking at her lunch and trying to ignore the whispers. She'd known this would happen, known that signing up, or rather being signed up, would make her a target. But knowing didn't make it easier. Her phone buzzed, a text from her grandmother. "How's school, baby?" Naomi typed back quickly. "Fine, going to Owen's after." Dorothy had warmed to Owen over the past week. He'd stopped by twice more, once to bring Naomi some old sheet music, once to check in and make sure Dorothy was comfortable with the arrangement. He'd been respectful, polite, and most importantly, genuine. Dorothy had seen enough men in her life to know when someone was real and when they were putting on a show. Owen was real. Still, she worried. Naomi had been through so much already. Her mother leaving when she was 6. Her father in and out of jail, now serving a long sentence for something Dorothy didn't like to think about. The bullying at school, the poverty that clung to them no matter how hard Dorothy worked. But she'd also seen something change in Naomi over the past week. A lightness. A spark. And if this man and his piano were the cause of that, then Dorothy would support it. That afternoon, Naomi walked to Owen's house, the notebook tucked carefully in her backpack. She'd spent the previous night staring at Ella's unfinished melody, humming it to herself, trying to hear where it wanted to go. When she arrived, Owen was waiting on the porch with 2 mugs of hot chocolate. "Thought you might need some fuel," he said, handing her one. Naomi smiled, the first real smile she'd had all day. "Thanks." They went inside, settled at the piano, and opened the notebook. For the next 2 hours, they worked on the second page, building the melody note by note. Owen played through Ella's original section, then paused, letting Naomi hear where it ended. "What do you feel when you hear it?" he asked. "Where does it want to go?" Naomi closed her eyes, listening to the echo of the notes in her mind. "It feels like it wants to rise," she said. "Like it's asking a question." "Good," Owen said. "So what's the answer?" Naomi thought for a moment, then placed her hands on the keys. She played a progression, tentative at first, then stronger. The notes climbed, building tension before resolving into something hopeful and bittersweet. Owen's breath caught. "That's it," he said. "That's exactly it." They worked through the rest of the piece, Naomi improvising. Owen guiding both of them, pouring something unspoken into the music. By the time they finished, the sunroom was dark, the only light coming from the lamp on the piano. Naomi played the completed piece from start to finish. When the final note faded, She turned to Owen, tears streaming down her face. She would have loved this, Owen said, his own voice breaking. She really would have. Naomi nodded, unable to speak. That night, as Owen drove Naomi home, she said, "I'm scared." "Of the talent show." She nodded. "What if I mess up? What if everyone laughs?" Owen pulled up in front of her house and turned to her. "Naomi, listen to me. You're not playing for them. You're playing for you. And for Ella. And for everyone who's ever been told they're not good enough. If they laugh, that says everything about them and nothing about you. But what if I freeze? Then you take a breath, you find middle C, and you start again," Owen said. "And I'll be right there in the front row. You won't be alone." Naomi looked at him, this man who'd lost everything, and somehow still had enough left to give to her, and made a decision. "Okay," she said. "I'll do it." Owen smiled. "Good. Because I believe in you, and one day you're going to believe in yourself too." As Naomi walked into her house, she found her grandmother waiting in the kitchen. "You okay, baby?" Dorothy asked. Naomi nodded. "Yeah, Grandma. I think I am." Dorothy studied her granddaughter's face, saw something there she hadn't seen in years, and smiled. "Good," she said. "Now go on and get some rest. You got work to do." That night, Naomi lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She thought about Ella, the girl she'd never met but somehow felt connected to. She thought about Owen, who'd given her not just lessons but belief. She thought about the talent show looming 3 weeks away, and the inevitable laughter and judgment that would come. But for the first time, she also thought about possibility, about what might happen if she didn't freeze, if she didn't fail, if she proved everyone wrong. She fell asleep with Ella's melody humming in her mind and dreamed of standing on a stage playing piano under bright lights and not being afraid. The next 2 weeks were a blur of after-school sessions at Owen's house. Every day, Naomi arrived at 3:30, backpack slung over one shoulder, eager and nervous in equal measure. And every day, Owen met her at the door with the same greeting. Ready to work, and she always answered the same way. Always. Owen was a patient teacher, but he was also demanding. He didn't let Naomi coast on her natural talent. He pushed her to understand the mechanics of what she was doing, the theory beneath the emotion. Reading sheet music was only the beginning. Once Naomi could identify notes and rhythms, Owen moved on to dynamics, tempo markings, key signatures. He taught her about phrasing, about how to breathe with the music even though she wasn't singing. He taught her about the space between notes, the silence that was just as important as the sound. "This is a rest," he said, pointing to a symbol on the page. "It means you stop. But stopping doesn't mean nothing is happening. Silence is part of this conversation." Naomi nodded, absorbing everything like a sponge. But it wasn't always easy. There were moments of frustration when her fingers stumbled over passages she thought she'd mastered. Moments when Owen had to stop her and say, "Again," from the top. Moments when she wanted to quit. But she didn't. Because every time the frustration peaked, Owen was there with a steady hand on her shoulder and a reminder. "You're not just good, Naomi. You're exceptional. And exceptional takes work." One afternoon, after a particularly difficult session on scales, Naomi slumped forward on the bench, exhausted. "Why does this matter?" she asked. "I can already play the piece." "You can play it," Owen agreed. "But can you own it? Can you make it yours in a way that no one else can?" Naomi frowned. "How do I do that?" Owen thought for a moment, then stood and walked to the bookshelf. He pulled down an old recording, a CD in a cracked case. He put it in the player and pressed play. The sound that filled the room was a piano solo, Chopin's Nocturne, in E-flat major. It was beautiful, technically flawless, but something about it felt hollow. like the person playing had hit every note correctly but hadn't felt any of them. "That's a student recording," Owen said. "Someone who learned the piece perfectly but never made it theirs." He stopped the track and put in another CD. The same piece began again, but this time it was different. The notes were the same, but the emotion was overwhelming. Every phrase felt alive, breathing, aching. "That's a master," Owen said. "Someone who didn't just play the notes, they lived them." Naomi listened, her eyes closed, and she understood. "I want to play like that," she said. "Then you have to do more than practice," Owen said. "You have to feel. Every note you play, you have to mean it." From that day forward, Naomi approached the piano differently. She didn't just play Ella's melody. She inhabited it. She thought about the girl who'd written it, the dreams she'd had, the life she'd been robbed of. She poured her own pain into it too, all the loneliness and fear and hope that she'd been carrying for so long. And slowly, the piece transformed. It became something more than notes on a page. It became a story. One evening, after Naomi had played through the completed melody without a single mistake, Owen sat back and just stared at her. What Naomi asked, self-conscious. "You just played something that would make professional musicians cry," Owen said. "And you're 13. Naomi blushed. "Stop. I'm serious," Owen said. "Naomi, you have a gift, a real one. And I need you to understand that what you're doing isn't just practice for a middle school talent show. This is the beginning of something bigger." Naomi looked down at her hands, calloused now from hours at the piano. She wanted to believe him. But belief was hard when you'd spent your whole life being told you weren't enough. "Do you really think I'm that good?" she asked quietly. Owen leaned forward, his voice firm. "I don't think it. I know it." The words settled over her like a blanket, and for the first time, Naomi let herself believe them. That weekend, Dorothy came with Naomi to Owen's house. She'd asked to hear her granddaughter play, and Owen had welcomed her warmly. The three of them sat in the sunroom, the afternoon light streaming through the windows, and Naomi played Ella's melody from start to finish. When she finished, Dorothy was crying. She stood, walked over to Naomi, and pulled her into a tight hug. "Baby," she whispered. I never knew you could do something like that." Naomi hugged her back, tears slipping down her own cheeks. Owen watched from across the room, a lump in his throat. This, he thought, was why he'd become a teacher in the first place. Not for the accolades or the successful students who went on to prestigious schools, but for moments like this, when music became a bridge between people, when it said the things words couldn't. After Dorothy left, Owen pulled out a small velvet box from a drawer. "I want you to have this," he said, opening it. Inside was a silver bracelet, delicate and simple, with a small charm in the shape of a treble clef. Engraved on the back were the words, "Play with your heart, not your fear." "This was Ella's," Owen said. "She wore it to every recital. I want you to wear it when you perform." Naomi's hands trembled as she took the bracelet. "I can't take this." "You're not taking it," Owen said gently. "I'm giving it to you, because I think Ella would have wanted you to have it." Naomi fastened the bracelet around her wrist, the metal cool against her skin. She looked up at Owen, eyes shining. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Owen nodded, his own eyes damp. "You're welcome." That night, as Naomi lay in bed, she traced the engraving on the bracelet with her finger. "Play with your heart, not your fear." She repeated the words to herself, like a mantra, letting them sink in, hoping they'd be enough to carry her through what was coming. Because the talent show was in 1 week, and the whole school would be watching, The official talent show lineup was posted on Monday morning, printed on bright yellow paper, and taped to the wall outside the auditorium. Students crowded around it during passing periods, scanning for their names, pointing, and laughing and making predictions. Naomi didn't go near it. She already knew she was on the list. Slot 8. Between a group of girls doing a dance routine and a boy who was going to perform a magic act. She'd heard the whispers, felt the stares, seen the smirks. But she'd also felt the weight of Ella's bracelet on her wrist, and that was enough to keep her walking forward. At lunch, Brittany's voice rang out across the cafeteria. "Hey, Naomi," she called, waving mockingly. "You ready for your big debut?" Laughter rippled through the room. Naomi kept her eyes on her tray, jaw clenched. "I heard she's playing one of those sad songs," Madison added. "You know, the kind that makes you want to take a nap." More laughter. Tyler chimed in. "Maybe we should bring pillows." Naomi stood abruptly, dumped her tray, and walked out. She made it to the bathroom before the tears came hot and furious. She hated that they still had this power over her, hated that their words could still cut. But then she touched the bracelet, felt the engraving under her fingers, and heard Owen's voice in her mind. "You're not playing for them." She took a breath, then another. Then she washed her face, straightened her shoulders, and walked back into the hallway. That afternoon, when she arrived at Owen's house, he took one look at her face and knew. Rough day. She nodded. "Want to talk about it? Or play through it? Play through it." Smart choice. They worked for 2 hours straight, refining every phrase of the melody. Owen was meticulous, stopping her whenever a note didn't ring true, whenever her timing slipped, whenever her emotion wavered. "This section here," he said, pointing to a passage near the end. "It needs to soar. Right now you're holding back. I don't want to mess it up. You won't." Owen said. "Trust yourself." Naomi tried again, and this time she let go. The notes rose and swelled, filling the room with something raw and powerful. When she finished, Owen was smiling. "There it is," he said. "That's what they need to hear." But Naomi still looked uncertain. "What if I can't do that on stage? What if I freeze?" Owen sat beside her on the bench. "Let me tell you something about Ella," he said. "The week before her last recital, she had a panic attack backstage, full-blown. Couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't move. I was terrified. I thought we'd have to pull her from the program." "What happened?" Naomi asked. Owen smiled faintly. "She went out there anyway, shaking terrified, but she did it. And you know what? She played the best performance of her life, because fear and passion aren't opposites. Sometimes they fuel each other." Naomi absorbed this, turning it over in her mind. "I'm not saying you won't be scared," Owen continued. "You will be. But scared doesn't mean incapable. It just means you care." Naomi nodded slowly. Okay, I'll be scared, but I'll do it anyway." Owen grinned. "That's my girl." The phrase slipped out before he could stop it, and for a moment both of them froze. It hung in the air, tender and significant. "Sorry," Owen said quickly. "I didn't mean—" "It's okay," Naomi said softly. "I liked it." They shared a look, an understanding passing between them that didn't need words. Owen wasn't her father. He'd never be her father. But he was something important, something she'd needed for a long time. That evening, Owen showed Naomi a video on his laptop. It was grainy, filmed years ago on a camcorder. The image showed a small girl in a blue dress sitting at a grand piano on a stage. Ella. This was her first recital, Owen said. She was 7, On the screen, young Ella adjusted the bench, placed her hands on the keys, and began to play. The piece was simple, a beginner's song, but she played it with such concentration and joy that it was impossible not to smile. When she finished, the audience erupted in applause. Ella stood curtsied awkwardly and ran off stage straight into her mother's arms. Naomi watched Sarah's face on the screen, the way she hugged Ella tight, the way her eyes shone with pride. She felt a pang of longing so sharp it hurt. "Your wife was beautiful," Naomi said quietly. Owen nodded. She was, inside and out. They watched the rest of the video in silence. When it ended, Owen closed the laptop. "I don't show that to people," he said, "but I wanted you to see it, because you remind me of her, not just the talent, the heart." Naomi's throat tightened. "Thank you." Owen put a hand on her shoulder. "1 week, Naomi. 1 week and you're going to show everyone what you're made of." She nodded, determination hardening in her chest. 1 week. The week before the talent show, the pressure mounted. It started small, a few snide comments in the hallway, a mocking text sent to Naomi's phone from an anonymous number. But by Wednesday, it had escalated. Someone had taken the old video of Naomi playing piano in the music room, the one Brittany had recorded, and edited it. They'd added mocking captions and ridiculous sound effects, making it look like Naomi was terrible. Then they'd posted it to the school's unofficial social media page. It went viral within hours. Naomi saw it during lunch. A group of girls at the next table were watching it, laughing so hard they could barely breathe. Naomi felt her face burn. She grabbed her things and fled to the bathroom, locking herself in a stall, trying not to cry. Her phone buzzed. A text from Owen. "Heard what happened. You okay?" She didn't respond. She couldn't. Another buzz. "Come to my house after school. We'll talk." Naomi took a shaky breath and typed back. Okay. When she arrived at Owen's that afternoon, he was waiting on the porch, arms crossed, jaw tight. "I saw the video," he said. "It's garbage. And cruel. Everyone thinks I'm a joke," Naomi said, her voice breaking. "Everyone who matters knows you're not," Owen said firmly. "The people laughing at that video, they don't know you. They don't know what you're capable of. And after Saturday, they won't be laughing anymore." Naomi wanted to believe him, but the weight of the ridicule was crushing. "What if I can't do this?" she whispered. Owen stepped closer. "You can. And you will. Because you're stronger than you think." "But what if no? What ifs?" Owen interrupted. "You've worked too hard. You've come too far. You're not letting them win." Naomi looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. "I'm scared." "I know," Owen said gently. "But you're going to walk onto that stage, sit at that piano, and play the most beautiful thing they've ever heard, and they're going to have to sit there and listen. And they're going to realize they were wrong." Naomi wiped her eyes. "You really think so? I know so." That evening, Owen made a decision. He called the school principal, a woman named Mrs. Delgado, and requested a meeting. The next morning, he sat in her office, calm but firm. "I want to talk about Naomi Brooks," he said. Mrs. Delgado sighed. "Mr. Hayes, I'm aware of the situation. The video, the bullying, we're addressing it." "Are you?" Owen asked. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're letting it happen." Mrs. Delgado stiffened. "That's not fair." Owen leaned forward. "That girl has been bullied for weeks. She was signed up for the talent show as a joke. And now there's a video mocking her all over social media and no one's done anything about it. We've spoken to the students involved," Mrs. Delgado said. "They've been warned." "Warned," Owen repeated. "That's it. What do you want me to do?" "I want you to make sure she's safe," Owen said. I want you to make sure that when she walks onto that stage on Saturday, no one is laughing. No one is filming to mock her. No one is making her feel like she doesn't belong." Mrs. Delgado studied him for a long moment. "You care about her." "I do," Owen said simply. "She's lucky to have you," Mrs. Delgado said. "And I'll do what I can. But I can't control what the students think." "No," Owen said. "But you can control what they do. And if anyone disrupts her performance, if anyone so much as snickers, there will be consequences." "Understood." Mrs. Delgado nodded slowly. "Understood." Owen left the office feeling slightly better, but he knew the real battle was still ahead. That night he sat Naomi down at the piano. "Forget the video," he said. "Forget the comments, forget all of it. Right now it's just you and the music." Naomi nodded, placing her hands on the keys. "Play like no one's watching," Owen said. "Play like it's just us in this room." And she did. For the next hour, Naomi poured everything into the music. Every ounce of pain, every shred of fear, every spark of hope. And when she finished, the silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of possibility. Owen looked at her eyes shining. "That's what they're going to hear on Saturday. That." Naomi smiled, small but real. "I'm ready," she said. "I know you are," Owen replied. But neither of them knew what was coming next. Because the next morning when Naomi arrived at school, she found something that stopped her cold. The grand piano in the auditorium had been vandalized. The keys were sticky, jammed with what looked like gum and candy. The pedals had been unscrewed. And written across the music stand in permanent marker were the words, "Good luck, Naomi." Naomi stood in the auditorium doorway staring at the ruined piano. Her chest felt hollow, her hands numb. Someone had done this on purpose. Someone wanted her to fail so badly they'd destroyed school property. She turned and walked out before anyone could see the tears. By lunchtime, the whole school knew. Some students were outraged. Others whispered about who might have done it. But no one came forward. And Brittany, Madison, and Tyler sat at their usual table smirking like they knew something no one else did. Mrs. Delgado called an emergency assembly. She stood on the stage, microphone in hand, voice tight with anger. "The piano in this auditorium is school property," she said. "What was done to it is vandalism, plain and simple. If anyone has information, come forward now." Silence. Naomi sat in the back row, arms crossed, staring at nothing. She felt Owen's presence before she saw him. He slid into the seat beside her. "I heard," he said quietly. "I'm so sorry." "They're going to cancel my spot," Naomi said, voice hollow. "There's no piano." Owen shook his head. "No, they're not." "What do you mean?" He pulled out his phone and showed her a text from Mrs. Delgado. "We're bringing in a backup piano from storage. An old upright. It's not ideal, but it works. You'll still perform." Naomi stared at the text, then at Owen. "You did this." "I made a few calls," Owen admitted. "You're not getting kicked off that stage, not because of someone's cruelty." Naomi's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they weren't tears of despair. They were something else. Gratitude. Relief. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet," Owen said. "That upright is rough. We need to practice on it before Saturday." That afternoon they met at the school after hours. Mrs. Delgado unlocked the auditorium, and there it was, a battered upright piano wheeled onto the stage. It was scarred and faded. The keys yellowed the tone, slightly off. Naomi sat down and played a few notes. It sounded tinny compared to Owen's grand piano. But it worked. "It's not perfect," she said. "No," Owen agreed. "But you don't need perfect. You need real." They practiced for 2 hours, Naomi adjusting to the feel of the keys, the different sound. Owen sat in the front row listening, coaching, encouraging. When they finally left, the sun was setting. The sky streaked with orange and pink. "One more day," Owen said as they walked to his truck. "One more day," Naomi echoed. That night, Naomi lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She thought about the vandalized piano, the mocking video, the years of being invisible and overlooked. She thought about Owen and Ella and the bracelet on her wrist. And she made a decision. Tomorrow she would walk onto that stage. She would sit at that old imperfect piano. And she would play. Not for the people who mocked her, not even for the ones who believed in her, but for herself, for the girl she used to be, and the girl she was becoming. She fell asleep with Ella's melody humming in her mind. And this time she didn't dream of fear. She dreamed of flight. The final days before the talent show blurred together in a haze of practice nerves and quiet determination. Every afternoon, Naomi went to Owen's house, and every afternoon they worked. Not just on the notes, but on everything surrounding them. The performance. Owen taught her how to walk onto a stage with confidence, even when her knees felt like water. He taught her how to acknowledge an audience with a simple nod, how to sit at the bench with purpose, how to breathe before the first note. "The audience isn't your enemy," he said one afternoon. "They want you to succeed, even the ones who think they don't. People are wired to root for the underdog. You just have to give them a reason." Naomi practiced her entrance a dozen times, walking from the wings, crossing the stage, sitting down. Each time Owen critiqued gently. Shoulders back, chin up. You belong there. By Friday, the day before the talent show, Naomi had the piece memorized so completely that she could play it in her sleep. But Owen insisted they run through it one more time. "Muscle memory," he explained. "Your fingers need to know this so well that even if your mind panics, your hands can carry you through." So they played. And halfway through, Owen stopped her. "You're holding back again," he said. "The end needs to be bigger. Let it out. I don't want to overdo it." "You won't," Owen said. "Trust me. This is the moment where Ella's melody meets yours. It should feel like a conversation between the past and the present, between her and you." Naomi closed her eyes, thought about Ella, about Owen, about everything she'd been through. Then she played the ending again, and this time she didn't hold back. The notes climbed and swelled, building to a crescendo that felt like both a question and an answer. When she finished, Owen was standing, eyes wet. "Perfect," he said. That was perfect. That night, Naomi couldn't eat dinner. Her grandmother made her favorite meal, fried chicken and mac and cheese, but Naomi just pushed the food around her plate. "You're going to do fine, baby," Dorothy said gently. "What if I don't?" "Then you'll learn something," Dorothy said. "But I don't think you're going to fail. I think you're going to show them all what I've always known, that you're extraordinary." Naomi looked at her grandmother, this woman who'd raised her through poverty and hardship and never once made her feel like a burden. "Thank you, Grandma," she whispered. Dorothy smiled. "Now go get some sleep. Big day tomorrow." But Naomi didn't sleep. She lay in bed, running through the melody in her mind, feeling the keys under her fingers, imagining the stage lights. And somewhere across town, Owen sat in his sunroom, staring at the grand piano. He thought about Ella, about the day she'd first sat at this instrument, about the way she'd laughed when she hit a wrong note. He thought about Naomi, about the quiet strength in her that reminded him so much of his daughter, and he realized something. This wasn't just about Naomi performing, it was about him letting go. Not of Ella, she'd always be with him, but of the guilt, the suffocating weight of what he couldn't save. Naomi had given him a reason to play again. a reason to teach, a reason to wake up in the morning and believe that life could still hold beauty. Tomorrow he would sit in that audience, and no matter what happened, he would be proud. Because Naomi had already won. Saturday morning arrived cold and gray, the kind of weather that felt heavy with anticipation. The talent show was set for 7 p.m., which meant Naomi had an entire day to spiral into anxiety if she let herself. She woke early, the sunlight pale through her bedroom window. For a moment, she just lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to calm the storm in her chest. Then her phone buzzed. A text from Owen. "Good morning, superstar. Remember, play with your heart, not your fear. See you at 6. Naomi smiled despite herself. She typed back, "See you then." She got up, showered, and tried to eat breakfast. Her grandmother had made pancakes, but Naomi could only manage a few bites. "You need to eat," Dorothy said. "I can't. My stomach's a mess." Dorothy sat down across from her, reaching out to take her hand. "Listen to me, baby. Whatever happens tonight, I'm proud of you. You hear me, proud." Naomi squeezed her grandmother's hand. "Thanks, Grandma." At noon, Owen texted again. "Want to meet at the school? We can do a quick run-through on the upright." Naomi hesitated, then agreed. Okay. They met in the empty auditorium. The stage was set for the evening chairs arranged in neat rows, a single spotlight hanging above the upright piano. It looked small and lonely up there, but Naomi forced herself to walk toward it. Owen was already on stage adjusting the bench. "Ready?" he asked. Naomi nodded, sitting down. She played through the piece once, slowly getting reacquainted with the feel of the upright. The sound was still tinny, the keys stiff, but it would do. When she finished, Owen smiled. "You've got this." But Naomi still looked uncertain. What if something goes wrong? Owen sat beside her on the bench. "Then you adapt. Music isn't about perfection, Naomi. It's about connection. As long as you're feeling it, they'll feel it too." Naomi took a breath. "Okay." They left the auditorium together, and Owen drove Naomi home. On the way, he pulled into a small parking lot and turned off the engine. "I want to give you something," he said, reaching into the glove box. He pulled out a small envelope. "What is this? Open it." Inside was a card. On the front was a simple drawing of a piano. Inside, in Owen's handwriting, was a note. "Naomi, tonight you're going to do something incredible. Not because you're perfect, but because you're brave. Ella would have loved you, I'm certain of that. And I'm honored to have been part of your journey. No matter what happens, know that you've already changed my life. Thank you for reminding me why I became a teacher. Thank you for giving me a reason to play again." With pride and belief, Owen. Naomi's hands trembled as she read the words. Tears slipped down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. Owen nodded, his own eyes damp. "Now let's go make some magic." At 5 p.m., Naomi started getting ready. She didn't have anything fancy to wear, no sequined dress or designer shoes like some of the other performers would, but she had a simple black dress her grandmother had bought her for a school event last year, and she had Ella's bracelet. She put on the dress, brushed her hair, and fastened the bracelet around her wrist. Then she stood in front of the mirror and looked at herself. "You can do this," she said out loud. "You can do this." Dorothy knocked softly on the door. "You ready, baby?" Naomi turned. "Yeah, I think so." Dorothy stepped into the room, her eyes shining. "You look beautiful." Naomi hugged her grandmother tight. "Thank you for everything, Grandma, for believing in me. Always, baby. Always." They drove to the school together, arriving just as the sun was setting. The parking lot was packed, families streaming toward the auditorium. Naomi felt her stomach clench. Owen was waiting by the entrance. When he saw her, he smiled. "You look great," he said. "I feel like I'm going to throw up." Owen laughed. "That's normal. Come on, let's get you backstage." Backstage was chaos. Students in costumes and makeup rushed around practicing lines and dance moves. A teacher with a clipboard was trying to organize everyone into their performance order. Naomi found a quiet corner and sat down, clutching her hands in her lap. Owen sat beside her. "How are you feeling?" "Terrified." "Good. That means you care." Naomi smiled faintly. "You keep saying that, because it's true." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Owen said, "I brought you something else." He handed her a small wooden box. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, was a silver pendant in the shape of a treble clef. "This was Sarah's," Owen said. "Ella used to play with it when she was little. I want you to have it." Naomi's breath caught. "Owen, I can't." "Yes, you can," he said gently, "because you've become part of this family. Even if it's just you, me, and the memory of them. You're part of it." Naomi took the pendant, her hands shaking. She fastened it around her neck, feeling the cool metal against her skin. "Thank you," she whispered. Owen nodded. "Now go out there and show them what you're made of." At 6:30, 30 minutes before the show was set to begin, disaster struck. Mrs. Delgado rushed backstage, her face pale. "We have a problem," she said. Owen stood. "What is it?" "The upright piano. Something's wrong with it." Naomi's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Delgado led them onto the stage. The upright sat where it had been earlier, but now several keys were sticking, refusing to press down. Someone had jammed something into the mechanism. Owen knelt down, inspecting the damage. "This was done on purpose," he said, voice tight with anger. Mrs. Delgado's expression hardened. "Who would do this?" Owen looked at Naomi. "The same people who vandalized the grand piano." Naomi felt the room spin. This is it, she thought. They've won. But Owen stood, jaw set. "No, we're not letting this happen." "Mr. Hayes, what do you suggest?" Mrs. Delgado asked. "The show starts in 20 minutes. Owen thought fast. "Is there another piano anywhere in this building?" Mrs. Delgado hesitated. "There's an old keyboard in the music room. It's not a real piano, but it'll have to do," Owen said. "Get it." Within 10 minutes, the keyboard was wheeled onto the stage. It was small, portable, the kind used for beginners. The sound wouldn't be as rich, but it would work. Naomi stared at it, panic rising. "I've never played on a keyboard before." "It's the same keys," Owen said firmly. "Same notes. You can do this." "But what if no? What ifs?" Owen interrupted. "You've worked too hard. You're not backing down now." Naomi looked at him, saw the belief in his eyes, and nodded slowly. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Mrs. Delgado addressed the situation briefly with the audience before the show began, explaining that there had been technical difficulties, but the performances would go on. She didn't mention the vandalism, but Owen saw a few parents whispering suspicious. The show started. The first act was a dance routine, polished and energetic. The second was a comedy skit that got big laughs. The third was a vocal solo that brought the crowd to tears. And with each act, Naomi's anxiety grew. She paced backstage, hands trembling. Owen stayed by her side, calm and steady. "Breathe," he said. "In through the nose, out through the mouth." Naomi obeyed, trying to slow her racing heart. The seventh act finished to enthusiastic applause. Then the MC, a student named Jacob, walked to the microphone. Next up, he said, we have Naomi Brooks performing an original piano composition. A few scattered claps, some whispers. Naomi heard someone snicker. Owen squeezed her shoulder. Ignore them, just play. Naomi nodded, stood, and walked toward the stage. As Naomi waited in the wings, she could hear the murmurs from the audience. Some curious, some skeptical, some outright mocking. She glanced out from behind the curtain and saw Brittany Madison and Tyler sitting near the back phones, out smirking. Her hands started to shake. Owen appeared beside her, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Look at me," he said quietly. She turned to him, eyes wide with fear. "You're about to walk out there and do something most people will never have the courage to do," he said. "And that makes you braver than anyone in that room, including them." He nodded toward Brittany and her friends. "What if I fail?" Naomi whispered. "Then you fail in front of people who don't matter," Owen said. "But I don't think you will, because I've heard you play, and I know what you're capable of." Naomi swallowed hard, trying to absorb his words. Owen reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. He handed it to her. "What is this?" "Something Ella wrote," he said. "I found it in her notebook after she died. Read it before you go on." Naomi unfolded the paper. The handwriting was looping and young, written in purple ink. "Dear future me, if you're reading this, it means you're about to do something scary. Maybe a big recital, or a competition, or just something that makes your stomach feel like it's full of butterflies. I want you to remember that being scared is okay. It means you care. And caring is what makes music beautiful. So take a deep breath, sit down at the piano, and let your heart do the talking. You've got this. Love. Ella." Age 9. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. She looked up at Owen. She was 9 when she wrote that. Owen nodded. She kept it in her notebook for years, used to read it before every performance. Naomi carefully folded the paper and tucked it into the pocket of her dress. "Thank you," she whispered. Owen smiled. "Now go out there and make her proud." The MC's voice echoed through the auditorium. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Naomi Brooks." Naomi took a breath, touched the bracelet on her wrist, felt the pendant at her neck, and stepped into the light. The walk from the wings to the keyboard felt like miles. Naomi was acutely aware of every sound, the shuffle of feet, the whisper of voices, the creak of chairs. The stage lights were bright, blinding, making it impossible to see individual faces in the audience, which was both a blessing and a curse. She reached the keyboard, a small portable thing that looked almost toy-like under the spotlight, and sat down on the provided stool. Her hands trembled as she adjusted her position. From the back of the room, she heard a giggle, then another. Her vision blurred. Her chest tightened. The panic she'd been holding at bay all day surged forward, threatening to drown her. She looked down at the keys, and for a moment they looked foreign, like she'd never seen them before. "I can't do this," she thought. "I can't." But then from the front row she heard a voice. Quiet, steady, familiar. "Breathe, Naomi." She looked up and found Owen. He was sitting in the center of the first row, leaning forward slightly, his eyes locked on hers. He nodded once, slow and deliberate. "You've got this." Naomi took a breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth, then another. Her hands steadied, just a little. She closed her eyes, shutting out the audience, the lights, the fear. She thought about Ella, about the girl who'd written that note at 9 years old, who'd faced her own fears and played anyway. She thought about Owen, who'd lost everything and still found a way to believe in her. She thought about her grandmother sitting somewhere in the audience, proud, no matter what happened. And then she thought about herself. About the girl who'd taught herself to play on a cracked phone screen. The girl who'd been mocked and bullied and overlooked her entire life. The girl who'd never given up. She placed her fingers on the keys, and she began to play. The first note rang out clear and true, cutting through the murmurs like a blade. The second followed, then the third, and slowly the room began to quiet. Naomi kept her eyes closed, letting the melody guide her. She knew this piece so well now that her fingers moved on instinct, finding each note without thought. But it wasn't just muscle memory. It was something deeper, something that lived in her chest and flowed out through her hands. The keyboard sound was thinner than a real piano, less resonant, but there was a purity to it, an honesty. And Naomi poured everything she had into those notes. In the audience, Owen sat motionless, barely breathing. He recognized Ella's melody immediately, the opening she'd written years ago, delicate and aching. But then came Naomi's addition, the section they'd built together, and it was like watching two souls have a conversation across time. Dorothy Brooks sat 3 rows back, tears already streaming down her face. She'd never heard her granddaughter play before, not like this, and the realization of just how much talent had been hiding in that quiet girl nearly broke her. Around the auditorium, the whispers faded. Students who'd come to laugh sat up straighter, their expressions shifting from mockery to something else. Confusion, surprise, and then slowly awe. Even Brittany Madison and Tyler in the back row had gone silent. Their phones lowered their smirks, fading, because what they were hearing wasn't just good, it was transcendent. Naomi reached the first climax of the piece, a section where the melody swelled and rippled, and her fingers danced across the keys with a confidence that seemed impossible for someone who'd learned on their own. The notes cascaded, building tension, asking questions without words. And then, just as suddenly, they softened, retreating into something tender and vulnerable. In that moment, Naomi wasn't just playing music. She was telling a story about being small and afraid, about being overlooked and underestimated, about finding a voice when the world tried to silence you. It was Ella's story. It was Owen's. It was hers. And everyone in that room felt it. The second movement of the piece was where Naomi and Owen had spent the most time. It was the bridge between Ella's original melody and the resolution Naomi had composed. It required a shift in dynamics, a change in tempo, and most importantly, a leap of faith. Naomi's hands slowed the notes, becoming sparse, almost hesitant. It was deliberate, a musical question mark that hung in the air. For a moment, it felt like the piece might dissolve into silence. But then, with a breath, Naomi pressed forward. The melody returned, but transformed. What had been tentative was now resolute. What had been a whisper became a declaration. Owen's throat tightened. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. The moment where Ella's unfinished work found its ending. And Naomi wasn't just finishing it, she was honoring it, elevating it, making it something neither Ella nor he could have imagined alone. In the audience, Mrs. Delgado watched with a hand pressed to her chest. She'd been a teacher for 23 years, had overseen countless talent shows, and never once had she witnessed something like this. A few rows away, a parent leaned over to her husband and whispered, "Who is that girl I don't know?" he replied. "But she's extraordinary." The piece continued building momentum, now layer upon layer of emotion woven into the melody. Naomi's hands moved with a fluidity that seemed almost otherworldly, and for a moment it was easy to forget she was only 13. Easy to forget this was a middle school talent show in a small town, because what was happening on that stage transcended all of that. The climax of the piece arrived like a wave cresting. Naomi's fingers flew across the keys, the notes tumbling over each other in a rush of sound that was both chaotic and controlled. It was the musical equivalent of a dam breaking all the pent-up emotion, all the fear and pain and hope pouring out in a flood. The audience leaned forward collectively, caught in the current. Owen closed his eyes, and for a moment he was somewhere else. He was in his living room 4 years ago watching Ella practice. He was in the car laughing with Sarah. He was in the hospital holding his daughter's hand as the machines beeped their final rhythm. But he wasn't drowning in the memories anymore. They were there, vivid and real, but they didn't hurt the way they used to. Because Naomi had done something he didn't think was possible. She'd turned grief into beauty. The music began to soften, now the storm passing, leaving behind something gentler. Naomi's hands moved with a tenderness that made people hold their breath. This was the resolution, the answer to every question the piece had asked. And it was an answer full of hope. Dorothy Brooks pressed a tissue to her eyes, overwhelmed. Her granddaughter, her sweet, quiet granddaughter, was doing this, in front of everyone, without fear, without shame, with nothing but her talent and her heart. Around the room, more than a few people were crying now. A teacher in the third row, a student near the aisle, even a man in the back who'd come only because his daughter was performing later and hadn't expected to feel anything at all. Brittany sat frozen in her seat, her phone dark in her lap. She'd wanted to laugh. She'd wanted to film this and turn it into another joke. But she couldn't. Because what she was hearing had stripped away every defense, every bit of cruelty she'd armored herself with, and left her feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time. Ashamed. Madison and Tyler weren't laughing either. They sat in silence, unable to look away from the stage, unable to reconcile the girl they'd mocked with the musician they were witnessing. Naomi reached the final section of the piece, the part she and Owen had written together. It was a conversation, a call and response between Ella's original melody and Naomi's addition. Back and forth the notes danced, two voices singing as one. And then slowly, gently, they came together in a final chord. Naomi held the chord for a long moment, letting it ring out, letting it fill every corner of the auditorium. And when she finally lifted her fingers from the keys, the silence that followed was absolute. No one moved. No one breathed. And then, like thunder, the applause began. The applause started as a ripple and became a roar. People rose to their feet, one after another, until the entire auditorium was standing. Naomi sat frozen at the keyboard, her hands still hovering above the keys, unable to process what was happening. Owen was on his feet, clapping so hard, his palms stung tears streaming openly down his face. He'd told Naomi she would prove them wrong, but even he hadn't anticipated this. The sheer force of the response. Dorothy pushed through the crowd, rushing toward the stage. A teacher tried to stop her, but she brushed past, climbing the steps and pulling Naomi into her arms. "You did it, baby," she sobbed. "You did it." Naomi clung to her grandmother, shaking, overwhelmed. The applause continued relentless, and Naomi finally looked out at the audience, really looked, and saw their faces. Some were smiling, some were crying. All of them were clapping. Even Brittany. Slowly, reluctantly, but she was clapping. Mrs. Delgado approached the microphone, her own eyes damp. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice unsteady. That was Naomi Brooks. The applause swelled again, louder this time. Naomi stood on shaking legs, managed a small bow, and walked off stage, her grandmother's arm around her shoulders. Backstage, Owen was waiting. He didn't say anything, just pulled Naomi into a tight hug. "You were incredible," he whispered. "Ella would be so proud. And so am I." Naomi buried her face in his shoulder and cried. Not from sadness or fear, but from sheer relief. From the overwhelming realization that she'd done it. She'd faced the thing that terrified her most and come out the other side. The rest of the talent show continued, but nothing came close to matching Naomi's performance. The audience was polite, appreciative, but the energy in the room had shifted. Everyone knew they'd witnessed something rare. When the show ended and the final bows were taken, Mrs. Delgado pulled Naomi aside. "I owe you an apology," she said. "I should have protected you better. Should have stopped the bullying sooner." Naomi shook her head. "It's okay." "It's not," Mrs. Delgado said firmly. "But I promise you things are going to change. Starting Monday, we're implementing new policies. And I want to talk to you about something else. There's a music conservatory in the city that offers scholarships. I'd like to help you apply." Naomi's eyes widened. "Really? Really?" Mrs. Delgado said. "You have a gift, Naomi, and it deserves to be nurtured." That night, as Owen drove Naomi and Dorothy home, the car was filled with a comfortable silence. Naomi stared out the window, watching the streetlights blur past the bracelet on her wrist, catching the light. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything." Owen glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "You did this, Naomi." "Not me. We did it together," she corrected. Owen smiled. "Yeah, we did." When they pulled up in front of Naomi's house, Dorothy got out first, giving Naomi and Owen a moment alone. "I don't know what's going to happen next," Naomi said. "But I'm not scared anymore," Good Owen said, "because the world needs to hear you, and I'll be there every step of the way." Naomi nodded, climbed out of the truck, and waved as Owen drove away. Then she walked inside, sat down at the small desk in the corner of her room, and opened a notebook. On the first page, she wrote, "My story. Chapter 1. And she began to write. The days following the talent show were surreal. Naomi woke up Monday morning expecting everything to go back to normal, expecting the mocking whispers and averted eyes. But instead, she was met with something entirely different. Respect. Students she'd never spoken to approached her in the hallway to say they'd been at the show, that they'd been blown away. A few even apologized for not standing up to the bullies sooner. In English class, a girl named Hannah, who'd always been kind but distant, slid into the seat next to Naomi. "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard," she said. "Seriously?" Naomi blushed. "Thank you. Have you been playing a long time, a couple years?" "Taught myself mostly." Hannah's eyes widened. "That makes it even more amazing." For the first time in her life, Naomi felt seen. Not as the poor girl or the quiet girl, but as the girl who played piano. The musician. Brittany Madison and Tyler, on the other hand, were conspicuously absent from their usual spots. Rumors swirled that they'd been called to Mrs. Delgado's office, that their parents had been contacted, that suspensions were being considered. Naomi didn't know the details, and she didn't ask. It didn't matter anymore. At lunch, Owen texted her. "How's your first day as a local celebrity?" Naomi smiled and typed back. "Weird, but good weird." That afternoon, when Naomi arrived at Owen's house for their usual session, she found something unexpected. The living room had been rearranged, and in the center where the coffee table used to be, sat a brand new keyboard. Not a cheap one, but a professional-grade digital piano with weighted keys and built-in speakers. "What is this?" Naomi asked, stunned. Owen shrugged, trying to look casual. "Figured you might want to practice at home. Your grandmother said it's okay." "I already dropped one off at your place, too." Naomi stared at him, speechless. "You didn't have to do that. I know Owen said, but I wanted to. You've given me so much, Naomi. Let me give this back." Naomi's eyes filled with tears, and she hugged him tight. "Thank you," she whispered. They spent the afternoon working on a new piece, something more advanced, a Chopin nocturne that Owen thought Naomi was ready for. She stumbled at first, the complexity overwhelming, but Owen was patient. "This is what growth feels like," he said. "Uncomfortable." By the end of the session, Naomi had the first page down. As she packed up to leave, Owen handed her an envelope. "What's this? Open it when you get home." That night in her bedroom, Naomi opened the envelope. Inside was a letter of recommendation written by Owen, addressed to the music conservatory Mrs. Delgado had mentioned. It was 2 pages long, detailing Naomi's talent, work ethic, and potential. At the bottom, Owen had written by hand, "Naomi Brooks is one of the most gifted musicians I've ever had the privilege of teaching. But more than that, she's proof that talent, when met with courage, can change lives. I have no doubt she will go on to do extraordinary things." Naomi folded the letter carefully and placed it in her desk drawer. Then she sat down at the keyboard Owen had given her and played. Not for an audience, not for a grade, just for herself. And it felt like freedom. By Wednesday, Naomi's performance had gone viral. Someone in the audience, a parent, had filmed the entire thing on their phone and posted it to social media with the caption, "This 13-year-old just played the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." The video was shared hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands of times. Comments poured in from across the country. "Who is this girl? She's incredible." This made me cry. Pure talent. She taught herself. "Are you kidding me?" Local news stations picked up the story. A reporter showed up at Naomi's school asking for an interview. Mrs. Delgado fielded the requests, carefully protective of Naomi, but eventually agreed to one interview with a reputable station. Naomi sat in the school library nervous, while a camera crew set up lights and microphones. Owen sat beside her off-camera, a steadying presence. "Just be yourself," he said quietly. The reporter, a woman named Lisa Chen, smiled warmly at Naomi. "So Naomi, I have to ask, where did you learn to play like that?" Naomi glanced at Owen, then back at the camera. "I taught myself mostly, watched videos online, and then Mr. Hayes started giving me lessons. And this piece you played, it was an original composition." Naomi nodded. "It was started by someone else. Someone really special. And I finished it." The interview aired that evening, and within hours, Naomi's phone was flooded with messages. Friend requests from strangers, emails from music teachers offering scholarships, even a message from a talent agent in New York asking if she'd be interested in representation. Dorothy sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through the messages, shaking her head in disbelief. "Baby, do you understand what's happening?" Naomi sat across from her, overwhelmed. "Not really. You're getting opportunities people dream about," Dorothy said. "But we need to be smart. We need to figure out what's real and what's just noise." That weekend, Owen came over to help them sort through the offers. He brought his laptop and a notepad, and together the three of them reviewed every email, every message. Most of it was noise people looking to make a quick buck off Naomi's sudden fame. But a few opportunities stood out. The Music Conservatory Scholarship, a summer intensive program for gifted young musicians, an invitation to perform at a regional arts festival. "These are the ones worth pursuing," Owen said, circling them on the notepad. Naomi looked at the list, feeling both excited and terrified. "What if I'm not ready?" "You are," Owen said. "But we'll take it one step at a time." "No rush." Dorothy nodded. "That's right, baby. We do this your way. No pressure." Naomi took a breath and smiled. "Okay." That night, after Owen had left and Dorothy had gone to bed, Naomi sat at her new keyboard and played Ella's melody again. But this time she added something new. A coda, a final section that felt like an epilogue. It was soft and hopeful, a promise that the story wasn't over, that there was more to come. And as the final notes faded into the quiet of her bedroom, Naomi felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The following week, the community rallied around Naomi in a way she'd never expected. The local paper ran a front-page story, Riverside's Rising Star, Naomi Brooks' Journey from Bullied to Brilliant. A group of parents inspired by Naomi's story organized a benefit concert at the town's community center. All proceeds would go toward establishing a music scholarship fund in Naomi's name to help other underprivileged students access music education. Owen was asked to perform alongside Naomi, and he agreed without hesitation. The night of the benefit concert, the community center was packed. Every seat was filled, people standing in the back and along the sides. Local businesses had donated food and drinks. A banner hung above the stage. Music changes lives. Backstage, Naomi paced nervously. This was different from the talent show. This was bigger, more formal, and the pressure felt immense. Owen appeared beside her, calm as always. "You've done this before. Not in front of this many people." "It's the same," Owen said. "You, the piano, and the music, nothing else matters." Naomi nodded, trying to believe him. When it was time, Owen walked on stage first. The audience erupted in applause, and he took a seat at the grand piano someone had loaned for the event. He didn't say anything, just began to play. A piece he hadn't performed in years, one of his own compositions from before the accident. It was melancholy but beautiful, and it set the tone perfectly. When he finished, the applause was warm and genuine. Owen stood, gestured to the wings, and said into the microphone, "Ladies and gentlemen, Naomi Brooks." Naomi walked out, and the applause grew louder. She sat beside Owen at the piano, and together they played a duet. Owen had arranged Ella's melody for 4 hands, and as they played, their fingers danced across the keys in perfect synchronization. It was magical. The audience watched in rapt silence, and when the final chord rang out, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. After the performance, Naomi and Owen stood together for a bow. The standing ovation lasted nearly 2 minutes. Backstage, Dorothy embraced her granddaughter, tears streaming. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. Mrs. Delgado approached with an envelope. "This is from the scholarship committee," she said. "They want you to know you've been accepted. Full ride." Naomi stared at the envelope, unable to believe it. Really, really. That night, as the community center emptied and people lingered to congratulate Naomi, Owen pulled her aside. "You know what this means, right?" Naomi looked at him. "What?" "It means your life is changing, in all the best ways." Naomi smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in it. "What about you?" "What about me? I don't want to leave you behind." Owen's expression softened. "Naomi, you're not leaving me behind. You're moving forward." And I'll be cheering for you every step of the way." Naomi hugged him tight. "Thank you for everything." "You're welcome," Owen whispered. "Now go show the world what you can do." In the weeks that followed, Owen found himself reflecting on how much had changed. Not just for Naomi, but for him. Teaching her had cracked open something inside him that he'd thought was sealed shut forever. He started playing again, not just to accompany Naomi, but for himself. He pulled out old compositions he'd abandoned, finished pieces he'd started years ago. He even began writing new music, something he hadn't done since before the accident. One evening, his brother stopped by, surprised to hear piano music drifting from the house. "You're playing again," he said, standing in the doorway of the sunroom. Owen looked up from the keys. "Yeah," his brother smiled. "It's good to hear. I've missed it." They sat together, and Owen told him about Naomi, about the lessons, about the talent show, about everything. "She gave me a reason," Owen said. "I didn't realize how much I needed one until she showed up." His brother nodded. "Sarah and Ella would be proud of you." Owen's throat tightened. "I hope so." After his brother left, Owen sat alone at the piano. He pulled out the wooden box, the one filled with recordings of Ella and Naomi, and opened it. He didn't play any of the tapes, just held the box, feeling the weight of the memories it contained. But this time, the weight didn't crush him. It grounded him. A few days later, Owen made a decision. He reopened his studio. Not as a full-time business, but as a community space where kids like Naomi, kids who couldn't afford lessons, could come and learn. He called it Ella's Keys. The first flyer went up at the community center, free piano lessons for students in need. In memory of Ella Hayes. All are welcome. Within a week, he had 5 students. Within a month, 10. And every time a new student walked through the door nervous and hopeful, Owen thought of Naomi. Thought of how one girl's courage had not only changed her own life, but his, and now the lives of others. 3 months after the talent show, Naomi stood backstage at a regional piano competition. She'd been invited to compete, and though the nerves were there, they didn't paralyze her the way they once had. Owen was in the audience front row, exactly where he'd promised to be. The competition was fierce. Talented students from across the state, some who'd been training since they could walk. Naomi was one of the youngest, and certainly the least formally trained. But when her turn came, she walked onto the stage with her head high. She wore Ella's bracelet on her wrist and the treble clef pendant around her neck. And she played not just with technical skill, but with soul. The judges deliberated for 20 minutes. When they announced the results, Naomi's name was called for first place. She stood frozen, unable to process it. Then Owen was there, pushing through the crowd, pulling her into a hug. "You did it," he said, his voice thick. "You really did it." The trophy was heavy in her hands, but it felt right. Earned. That evening back at Owen's house, they celebrated with pizza and soda. Dorothy was there, beaming with pride. A few of Naomi's new friends from school had come too, along with some of Owen's students from Ella's Keys. As the night wound down and people began to leave, Naomi and Owen found themselves alone in the sunroom, the grand piano silent but present. "I've been thinking," Naomi said, "about next year, about the conservatory." Owen nodded. "What about it?" "I'm scared," she admitted. "Scared I'll get there and realize I don't belong." Owen sat beside her on the bench. "You belong anywhere you choose to be, Naomi. And if you ever doubt that, just remember where you started. Remember that scared girl who taught herself to play on a phone screen." Look how far she's come." Naomi smiled. "You really think I'm ready? I know you are. But more importantly, you know it too." Naomi looked down at the bracelet on her wrist, traced the engraving with her finger. "Play with your heart, not your fear." She looked up at Owen. "Will you still teach me even when I'm at the conservatory?" "Of course," Owen said. "Always." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Naomi said, "I want to play something for you." She turned to the piano and began to play. Not Ella's melody, but something new, something she'd written herself over the past few weeks. It was hopeful and bright, with moments of shadow that gave it depth. When she finished, Owen was smiling. "What's it called?" he asked. Naomi thought for a moment. "Second chances." Owen's eyes glistened. Perfect. 1 year after the talent show, Naomi stood in the lobby of the music conservatory, clutching her acceptance packet. She'd officially enrolled, and classes would start in the fall. But today she was here for an orientation to meet other students, to tour the facilities. She walked through halls lined with practice rooms, heard the sound of violins, cellos, pianos, all blending into a chaotic symphony of learning. It was overwhelming and exhilarating all at once. A girl approached her, friendly and curious. "You're Naomi Brooks, right? I saw your video. You're incredible." Naomi blushed. "Thanks. I'm Sophie. I play violin. Maybe we can collaborate sometime?" Naomi smiled. "I'd like that." Back home, Owen's studio had grown. Ella's keys now served 15 students, and there was a waiting list. He'd hired an assistant teacher, a retired musician named Mr. Alvarez, to help manage the load. Dorothy's health had improved too. With some of the money from the benefit concert, Naomi had insisted on getting her grandmother the medical care she needed. Dorothy was stronger now, more vibrant, and she spent her afternoons volunteering at Ella's Keys, greeting students and keeping the space organized. And Owen, for the first time in years, felt like himself again. Not the broken man who'd lost everything, but someone who'd found a way to rebuild. To honor what was lost, while embracing what remained. One evening, as the sun set and the last student left the studio, Owen sat at the piano and played. He played Ella's melody, Naomi's addition, and then his own coda, a final section he'd written as a tribute to both of them. When he finished, he closed the piano lid gently and smiled. "Thank you," he whispered. To Ella, to Naomi, to the music that had saved him. On a warm Saturday afternoon, Naomi returned to Owen's house. She'd been at the conservatory for a few weeks, but she'd come home for the weekend. She walked into the sunroom where Owen was teaching a young boy named Marcus how to read sheet music. When the lesson ended and Marcus left, Naomi sat beside Owen on the bench. "I wrote something," she said. "For you." Owen raised an eyebrow. "Yeah." She handed him a folded piece of paper. It was a letter, handwritten. "Owen, a year ago I didn't think I was worth much. I thought I was invisible. But you saw me. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You gave me more than piano lessons. You gave me a voice. I know I can never repay you for what you've done. But I hope that by living the life I'm building, by becoming the musician I'm meant to be, I can honor what you've given me. Ella was lucky to have you as a father. And I'm lucky to have you as a teacher, a mentor, and a friend. Thank you for everything. With love and gratitude." Naomi Owen read the letter twice, his vision blurring. When he looked up, Naomi was watching him, eyes soft. "You changed my life too, you know," he said quietly. "You reminded me why I started playing in the first place, why I started teaching. You gave me a reason to keep going." They sat together at the piano, and Naomi said, "Play with me." One more time. Owen nodded. What should we play? Something new, Naomi said. Let's improvise. And so they did. Their hands moved across the keys, creating something spontaneous and beautiful. A melody that hadn't existed before, built note by note, a conversation without words. When they finished, Owen turned to her and said, "You're ready. For what?" "For everything." And so Naomi's story, like the melody she'd completed, found its resolution. Not a perfect ending, because life isn't perfect, but a hopeful one. One full of promise and possibility. She went on to study at the conservatory, graduated with honors, and performed in concert halls across the country. She never forgot where she came from, and she never forgot the man who'd believed in her when no one else did. Owen continued teaching, touching countless lives through Ella's keys. He remarried eventually to a kind woman named Claire, who loved music as much as he did. And though the pain of losing Ella and Sarah never fully disappeared, it transformed into something else. Something bearable. Something almost beautiful. Because grief, like music, can be transcended. Not erased, but reshaped into something that honors what was lost, while celebrating what remains. And Naomi, standing on stages under bright lights, playing for audiences who hung on every note, always wore Ella's bracelet. A reminder that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is believe in each other and in ourselves. If this story touched your heart, we'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop a comment and let us know. And if stories like this stories about courage, second chances, and the power of music speak to you, please consider subscribing. There are so many more journeys to share, so many more voices waiting to be heard. From all of us here, thank you for listening. Take care of yourself. Believe in your gifts. And remember, you are never as small as the world tries to make you feel. Stay kind, stay hopeful, and keep playing your song.